The Chargers dominated the Carolina Panthers on Sunday, running all over them, and for the first time since 2012, the Chargers are 2-0.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but this is our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers for being here with us on this late night edition of the Locked On Chargers podcast. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, the Chargers are 2-0.
Yes, they are. They went right into Carolina and dominated the line of scrimmage, ran the ball straight down the Carolina Panthers' throat, and took the victory en route to their first 2-0 start in 12 years.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that it's been that long. I mean, you would think even some of the other worst teams could have found a way to do that. Plus, you have, the 2018 team that went 12-4 that year. Yeah, 2012, the last time the Chargers went 2-0. And they did it a lot like they did it in the first game. It was a ground game plan for the Chargers. They ground the Panthers down into the ground and absolutely dominated them, led by J.K. Dobbins, who through the first 2 weeks, it's going to be a very short list, if any list, of guys that have been better than J.K. Dobbins at the running back position. Once again, on Sunday, he's dominant, and this has been such a performance that we hoped for but didn't know we would get, David. But the Chargers are exactly kind of what they told us they were going to be, and J.K. Dobbins has been one of the most electric players in the NFL.
To hell with throwing the ball, right? Who cares if the Chargers have Justin Herbert? Let's run it right down the field. Let's dominate our opponent. Let's go move a grown man out of the way against their will. That's what the Chargers did all game long. 219 yards rushing on the ground on 44 carries. They said, I don't care what you guys are going to try to do. We're here to run the ball. We're going to run the ball. And they did, to crazy effectiveness. And J.K. Dobbins is unreal. I said it. I put a tweet out there. His contact balance, his patience, his acceleration, his burst. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is back. I mean, he is back in full force. He is the first Charger, and this is from the Chargers directly, to have 130-plus rushing yards in consecutive games since LaDainian Tomlinson did it back in 2007. That right there is a crazy start, and I can't believe it's been that long since somebody who's been that good on the ground, but J.K. Dobbins has been the real deal.
And it's so fun that we get to be here to talk about this and seeing it happen in such a different way. And there's a lot to get into. But today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. David, I put out there basically, I didn't remember the last time a running back had a 2-game stretch as good as the one we've seen from J.K. Dobbins in the first 2 weeks as a Charger, right? I think it's the most of any Charger for the first 2 weeks of any season is what J.K. Dobbins is doing. He's actually been historic. Insane. Overall, the Chargers run at 44 carries, 219 yards, and they average, again, over 5 yards a clip, and they get into the end zone again. J.K. Dobbins, just to show you, you can get big plays through the running game as well. The dude has 3 40-plus yard carries over 2 games. That's crazy. 43-yard touchdown in this game where once he gets outside and, the Chargers committing to running the ball on third down, when they break it, it breaks. And he said, last week couldn't get either of those big runs into the end zone. Well, he took care of business on this one. Ends up stiff-arming a guy and just making him look silly on the sideline as he goes and does a front flip into the end zone. And if you didn't see Jim Harbaugh talking about that after, just kind of talking about all the different times he tried to front flip and failed. It was awesome, man. But just, even Justin Herbert got in on the action, right? He had a designed run for 13 yards in this game.
It was beautiful.
And the thing about
and a nice
it was
scramble too, where you said he got saucy.
Yeah, he tried. Yeah, he tried to. As someone put in my comments, that's true. I mean, the moves look like they're a little bit in slow motion.
I mean, he's 6'6". Let's not forget that.
100%. But the whole point of kind of just the dominant rushing attack was they just didn't really even need to throw the ball at all in the second half. Pretty much the entire second half, they could just run and run and run, and the Panthers never even got close. And it's just funny to see. Hey, we question it's great in theory. What will it look like if you give Justin Herbert a good rushing attack to go with how good we know that he is? And we'll talk about his game later on. But this is a legitimate running football team. Like, they have an identity. Through 2 weeks. They've been able to implement it and physically dominate both of the opponents they've gone up against.
They absolutely have. I mean, they've asserted their will. They said it from the very beginning. Jim Harbaugh said it when he first got here, is don't let the powder blues fool you. You know, we're going to be a physical ground and pound football team. And we already knew that, you know, with Greg Roman coming as the offensive coordinator, that he wasn't going to abandon the run. You know, he wasn't going to stop if it wasn't working. He was going to keep calling run plays over and over and over again until they popped. In this game, they popped from the very beginning. Like, they had a lot of success on the ground. And what's the point of throwing the football if you're rattling off 5-6 yards a clip, getting, 15-yard runs, constantly staying ahead of the sticks and just asserting your dominance? You're, protecting the football. You're not putting it in harm's way. And, you're still able to cap it off with scores. So, like, this is who they said they were going to be. And through 2 games, they're doing exactly what they want. They're playing extremely good defense, and they're running the ball at a historically high level.
It's super impressive just how few times they've taken losses on runs too, right? Almost no runs for no gain. Like, you see a Gus Edwards 18 for 59, and it just looks pedestrian, but it's just like he's just battering and getting the hard yardage that you don't need to have J.K. Dobbins out there to get, right? Yeah. Realistically. And I mean, when you just look at this performance through 2 games, I'll tell you one thing: the last 3 Chargers head coaches never had 2 back-to-back rushing performances like the one we just saw from this team 2 weeks in to a new era. I mean, they've had 395 rushing yards through 2 games. They're the second highest rushing yard per game team in the NFL, only behind the Green Bay Packers right now. They're averaging 197.5 rushing yards per game so far this season. That's crazy. I mean,
that's
it's just
almost 200 a game.
Not Brandon Staley, not Anthony Lynn, not Malibu Mike McCoy. It was definitely 2007 the last time you had, the back-to-back 165 plus yard games, or at least 395 yards over the span of 2 games. It's just ridiculous. But you can't talk about the offense without talking about Quentin Johnston, David, because we had a bold prediction that actually came true. Quentin Johnston, multiple touchdowns. We knew he only had 2 all of last season. We're like, what are the chances he could do that in this game? Quentin Johnston was the other big star offensively in this one. How great to see for this dude in game 2 to get into the end zone twice.
Man, it's got to feel so great for him after all of the people doubting him and tearing him down from his rookie season. And he was a first-round pick. He didn't have the year he or anyone else expected. That is definitely a fact. What can you do about it? Go back into the lab, go work your butt off, and get ready for the next season. And by all accounts, he did that. He showed that he was able to separate better. He showed that he was able to catch the ball a little bit better, that he was running better, cleaner routes. He credited the coaching staff, but he also has to credit himself. 5 catches, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns, his first ever multi-touchdown game. And this is such a phenomenal development for the Chargers offense, because before the season started, and rightfully so, you look at this wide receiver room and you say, man, where is the explosion going to come from? Where are the big plays going to come from? Quentin Johnston.
Who's going to step up in this passing game, right?
Who's going to step up? Quentin Johnston has showed that he is capable of doing it. Just give him the opportunities, and he was able to go out there and cash in. Feels so great for him. Now he just needs to stack good, strong performances on top of each other.
Yeah, and the first touchdown was the one that I think meant more to me because of how we got it. The second one, he was just wide open in the end zone. He worked his way open, whatever you want to say. But the first one, going up against one-on-one with J.C. Horn, a former first-round pick, on the outside, beating him vertically. Not only that, but adjusting well to the ball that was thrown a little bit inside. He cuts off the defensive back, gets a fully extended catch like that. That's a much harder catch than it looks like. And he made it. And that's all we ask. In those big moments, we need you to make those plays.
Go get the ball.
And he made it. And it was just cool to see that, because he has turned into a legitimate impact player. We are seeing right now absolutely that this is an improved version of the player that we saw in 2023. He's a new dude. Through 2 games, I mean, I don't know what much more that you could ask for. We weren't even sure if he was going to start, right? DJ Chark in line to start. He steps in, and now through 2 games, he's been wide receiver 1. Most receptions, most yards on the team so far. So great to see that from him, because if he can be an impact player for this team, it changes a little bit at least how you feel about this young wide receiving core that has a lot to prove. But the Chargers defensively have been everything we wanted Brandon Staley to be in his time and never was. Jesse Minter is the truth, man. And it was another
Yes.
suffocating performance by this Chargers defense. So we're going to get into that and much more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys about PrizePicks because PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do, pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And right now, they're giving you one. All you need is one Caleb Williams passing yard to net you one win on PrizePicks through September. This is awesome. I mean, it means you only need to get one more to be in the money. It's great because, I mean, Caleb Williams, hopefully you guys had that this week. He did surpass one passing yard. It's a gimme. And with PrizePicks, you can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. And the best part for me, PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. For tonight's game, you guys can get in on the action with Saquon Barkley going for more than or less than 77.5 rushing yards. Or you add down to that, Bijan Robinson getting more or less than half a touchdown. So download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. I also need to tell you guys about a game day favorite of mine, and that's DoorDash. And let me tell you, as a parent, DoorDash has never meant more to me than it does right now, and you can't have your game day without DoorDash because football is finally back, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a play, and you just can't have a football Sunday without DoorDash. DoorDash can take a lot of stress off of you if you're hosting and having people over. You don't need to cook for hours because you can have all of your game day favorites right at your door. DoorDash is also perfect if you got the dip but no chips. If you got the burgers for no buns, you don't have to miss a snap. You can get DoorDash, and you can use the promo code LOCKEDFALL24 for 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 plus on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol, but DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available in select markets. David, let's talk about Jesse Minter, the wonderkind, the actual defensive mastermind that I get it's the Panthers. The Panthers are bad, right? They still only scored about a third of the points they did in week 1 against this Chargers defense in this one. It was never close. They never had any kind of momentum. For the second straight week, according to Eric Smith, who first I saw put this out, they had one play inside the Chargers red zone. The whole game. The Chargers have had 2 plays run in their defensive red zone in 2024.
That's ridiculous.
It's mind-boggling, man. I don't care. I mean, look what Gardner Minshew did to the Ravens.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, I don't think Gardner Minshew's great, and the whole plan was, you know, make sure everyone knows Gardner Minshew's not great, but, like, that offense did something this week, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure caught the Ravens by surprise. Yeah, the Carolina Panthers are lowly, David, but, like, let's not pretend like the Chargers have never let bad teams put up points, put up yards against them. The Panthers had nothing. It was a total, complete failure by their offense, and it was all because of what Jesse Minter's defense was able to do. It was ridiculous. It was awesome.
Absolutely it was. This was definitely a trap game, no question about it going into this one. We knew what the Carolina Panthers were, but that never stopped the Chargers from losing these type of games in the past. So the defense had a huge part to play in this. This is one of my favorite stats here. The Chargers did not allow a first down until 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first half.
Yeah.
Okay. That just shows you how absolutely just ridiculously good the defense was, only allowing 159 yards of total offense. That's passing and rushing included. The top receiver had 3 catches for 23 yards. Chuba Hubbard, the top rushing running back, had 10 carries for 64 yards. That was it. The Chargers dismantled them. They took away everything that they wanted. Anytime they had momentum, they got pressure in Bryce Young's face. They forced the 3 and out. They got off the football field. They were unreal. Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator we always wanted Brandon Staley to be.
Oh, absolutely. It's not even close so far. And there's going to be tests, and we're going to talk about the tests that they have coming up, but they'll really get to prove it. But they left them no air. Like the one thing that you can do is you can let a team get some confidence, like the Raiders, right? That Alexander Madison 31-yard touchdown, he's hurdling dudes. Gave them a little tiny bit of life last week, and it didn't matter. They still beat him by double digits. There was nothing. There's no redeeming qualities. There's nothing for them to hang their hat on. They were 1 of 12 on third down in this game, right?
1 of 12.
Bryce Young, 18 for 26, 84 yards, a 3.2 yard per average, 1 interception,
84 yards,
a QBR of 6.5 out of 100. And a passer rating of 57.2. The longest reception of the day was 12 yards. They're not giving up big plays. They're not giving up first downs.
Really not giving up much of anything.
And you could tell that the Panthers had made an emphasis on getting the ball out quickly, getting it to the playmakers, and letting them work. And that is a solid strategy. But it all got shut down. The Chargers' open field tackling was relentless. It was
phenomenal.
Awesome. They minimized every reception for the most part. And you couldn't dink and dunk them because they weren't going to give you a free 7 yards. Those free 7 yards you were giving up in years past, that's a 3-yard gain. Let's see you do it again, right?
Yeah.
It was just great. The way that defense played, so connected, no big plays allowed. They still got pressure when the pressure presented itself.
Yeah.
But they were getting the ball out of their hands so quickly, and it just didn't matter in this game. And the one player who obviously stood out in this one was the only player to get a takeaway in this game, and it was Elijah Molden, who, David, the Chargers traded a 2026 7th-round pick for. Traded for nothing. They got him for absolute nothing.
A bag of footballs.
A bag of footballs, truly. And he was probably going to get cut by the Titans, but the Chargers knew they needed him. They secured his services. Last week, he was the safety 3. This week, he's the starting safety alongside Derwin James. And the Chargers were missing one of their better defensive players in this game in Alohi Gilman. You would have no idea because of the game that Elijah Molden put up there and taking the football away on a play where he just read the play perfectly, made a good break, and made a big-time splash.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable to have a GM to go out there and make a move that immediately pays dividends to make your football team better, to make your defense that much deeper, that much more multiple. That's what happened when Joe Ortiz acquired Elijah Molden, and Elijah Molden steps up after only being with the Chargers for a few weeks, comes in and starts next to Derwin James, has 7 tackles, a pass defensed, and an interception where he clearly knew where the ball was going, ran up and undercut the receiver and stole that interception for the Chargers defense.
Yeah.
He was incredible to be able to, for him to come in just on that short amount of time and make an impact and be able to play the whole game and not look out of place. That's a credit to the Chargers, and that's a credit to himself for coming in and playing really good football.
And Joe Ortiz for bringing him in. And it was funny because Joe Ortiz literally got a game ball after the game from Jim Harbaugh for bringing Elijah Molden in. He's like, yeah, this guy's good. Here's a game ball to Joe Ortiz. Thank you for this because he's the guy we needed.
Yeah.
And the Chargers, passed their first test of adversity, not having their full unit intact, having Joey Bosa on a snap count, and it just didn't matter. They were just still completely and totally dominant. They never let them have a slice of a chance. And you also have to, I think, shout out Deon Henley, another guy who got a game ball and was just everywhere. Like I said, the Panthers had a game plan to get the ball out quickly, and it was guys like Deon Henley and mostly Deon Henley that was right there to shut it down, be solid in the run game, and he absolutely deserves a shout out for his performance in this one.
Oh, he does for sure. He was everywhere. I mean, it was one of those Deon Henley type of performances. 10 tackles. 10.
Yeah.
And a tackle for loss. So he was shedding blocks. He was around the football. I mean, it seems like every time he's on the football field, he finds a way to get to the football. I mean, he is just that kind of athlete. It's really awesome for me to watch linebackers that are extremely athletic, that can run sideline to sideline, and that are not completely inept in coverage.
Yeah.
And I think that's a credit to Deon Henley for making himself a physical linebacker that can get off blocks, that can make tackles, and that can go out there and cover running backs and tight ends whenever he draws those assignments. So Deon Henley had one of those great performances today, another one to stack on another performance that I felt like he played well against the Raiders as well.
Yeah.
Love that linebacker room. I just think I got to give a lot of credit to Navarro Bowman for coming in and really improving that room from top to bottom.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with rookie Junior Colson, who had to leave the game. But, I mean, right now I think you're still feeling really good about what you have. And Deon Henley and Denzel Perryman, I think you also feel like you have a guy in Troy Dye that if he has to come off and, come onto the field and get Denzel Perryman off of the field for a 3rd and long or something like that, he's more than capable of doing that too. And Jesse Minter has said that he has that faith in him. But, yeah, a guy that can impact all 3 levels of the game. And I think there's just so few impact coverage linebackers, or guys that have great instincts and ability in coverage that can also be as physical and tackle as well as him and take on blocks in the hole the way Deon Henley does.
Yeah.
He had a 2-play sequence in this game where he got the tackle for loss. The next play, he shuts another tackle down for like a 2-yard gain or something like that. And he's coming out of the pile, flexing and stuff. And it's just like, I'm so glad this dude has this moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, Brandon Staley didn't tell him happy birthday last year, and now look where we are, So it's great to see from Deon Henley. 2 guys that have been on the show, Deon Henley and Quentin Johnston, who we thought we might have accidentally cursed, now going on to do bigger and better things. The Locked On Chargers curse is dead. But we still have much more to get into in this game. The most important thing is the Chargers are 2-0. But they have some tests coming up on the schedule, and there's some things that have to get cleaned up. But for Justin Herbert, I'm not super worried about it, and there's a part of the 2 turnovers he had today that I actually kind of like. So we're going to get into that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you guys, though, if you need tickets to any sort of event, the only place you should be going is GameTime, because with GameTime, you know that you're getting the best prices with the GameTime guarantee. And also, they have a new feature out called GameTime Picks that makes getting the tickets you want for your favorite live events even easier. GameTime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And another thing I love about GameTime, toggle the all-in pricing. That means you're not going to get to check out with any sort of surprises. What you see is what you're going to get. And speaking of that, you can get a panoramic view of wherever your seat actually is, so you know exactly what your game day experience is going to be. But it's not just sports, music, concerts, comedy, whatever you want, you can find it on GameTime. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download the GameTime app today. What time is it? Game time. David, well, let's talk about some things that have to get cleaned up for the Chargers, because they are showing that they're a good team, and a good team that can beat bad teams. There's levels to it. How seriously should we take them, right? Are they good against bad teams, or are they going to be a team that can go challenge the really good teams and win some games we don't expect them to win this year? So I think that's kind of the next step of what we're going to see with this team. But I do want to thank everyone for making us your first listen, especially late on a Sunday night, a very exciting version of the show. And if you need a second listen, make sure to check out the new lineup on Locked On NFL, where they're doing 2 shows a day with Tyler the Madman Rowland, and also the barber Tony Wiggins, my boy, one of my favorites on the network, bringing on other local experts who are covering their teams every single day. David, let's start with the turnovers, right? If you were to take away one really ugly part of this game, it was the 2 turnovers by Justin Herbert. And when I say ugly, it just means very uncharacteristic for the level that Justin Herbert and the play, kind of what we've seen from Justin Herbert and the precedent that he set for himself.
Yeah, the expectations, right? Yeah,
his we hold him to a higher standard, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So when you see him tucking a ball, running to the right, and knowing he should have run, but trying to force a ball in anyway and getting intercepted, that looks weird, because you never see Justin Herbert do that, right?
Yeah.
When you see him hold on to a ball so long, and then get the ball stripped away from him, that looks weird because of how good he's been so far. But there's also part of it that I like. And the part that I like about it, David, is on those plays, especially the fumble. Like, I get it. He should have took a sack, get the field goal. You took points off the board there. That's not a good play.
Yeah.
But you can tell, I think, as opposed to in years past, he's trying to push it a little bit. If he doesn't have a first down available to him, hold on to the ball another second. See if you can make a couple more plays out of structure, and see if something can develop a little bit more downfield or become a little bit more open. And I like that, because I think in the past, Justin Herbert always wants to make the smart play. And it's not there immediately. I'm checking down to a running back. Yeah. Right now, he's like, I'm gonna hold it as long as I can and see if I can make something happen before I just take a sack, before I just get out of the pocket and do something like that. So bad turnovers for sure, but there is a part of it I like.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I appreciate that aspect of it too, and I think that has something to do with trusting his offensive line a little bit more, at least from the pass protection standpoint on the edges. I mean, Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater were both great again today. Yeah, I mean, I think Joe Alt technically gave up a sack, but I mean, that was a play where the Chargers and Justin Herbert held onto the ball for quite a bit longer than he usually does. So
sure, not all sacks are equal.
An anomaly.
The offensive line was great.
Yeah, they were fantastic, and that allows Justin Herbert to have the confidence to go out there and try to extend plays and go out there and make more plays. But yeah, the interception was like, Really? I mean,
Yeah,
we
that
don't,
one was
we
weird.
we don't see that. That's not something that Justin Herbert typically does because he can see the defenders in front of him. So he definitely should have run that one and just ran out of bounds. But hey, these type of things need to happen as well to try to remind him that he always needs to be conscious of protecting the football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he is a human being after all. He's going to make mistakes. Was Justin Herbert great? No. But was he bad? Absolutely not. He had a 70% completion percentage.
Yeah.
Just because the stats don't look great because he didn't have gaudy, passing numbers doesn't mean that he didn't play a pretty good football game. It's just by his standards, we are not used to him making those mistakes. So hopefully it's just a wake-up call for that not to happen in the future.
Yeah, I think that, for him, I think it's not terrible. I'm not worried about it at all. Yeah. And this was his game. He went 14 of 20 for 130 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception.
Yeah.
His QBR for this game out of 100 was 88.1.
It's pretty good.
His passer rating was 100 in this game. And this is what we're talking, is Justin great? No, that's what we're saying isn't great for Justin Herbert right now.
Right.
So yes, he only threw 20 times in this game. There's only a handful of times he ever did that in the 3 years Brandon Staley was
here. They didn't need to throw the ball.
This is the difference, David. With those 2 egregious kind of turnovers they had in this game, they won by 23 points. It just didn't matter at all.
The defense completely bailed them out. They did not affect the game at all.
Definitely. But I'm glad they're working out the kinks, and I'm glad he's getting these learning lessons in a game like this that you're winning by 23 points.
Yeah.
The problem is you do have bigger tests coming up. This might not fly against the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? This might not fly against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think that's the big thing is we're going to know a lot more about this team. You can only play who's on your schedule, and they've done great. But you have some big tests going up that I think will really kind of show us more about what this team can be, especially offensively. And even to an extent against the Chiefs, at least defensively. I think the Chargers should be able to handle the Steelers' offense. I think that's a plus advantage right now for the Chargers. The Chiefs will test you on both sides.
Yes, I agree completely. I just appreciate the fact that, the Chargers through 2 games, these are both opponents that I feel like coming into the season, they were expecting to beat. But that doesn't mean that, that changes when you show up. You still have to handle your business and show up and win. The real test now begins with 2-2-0 teams that you're going to play back to back with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who is an organization that hasn't had a losing record in over 10 years, which is ridiculous. And the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the 2-time Super Bowl defending champions. So this is where you're really going to figure out, is my defense legit? Is my running game going to be there? And is it going to travel? Is it going to be as dominant as it has been the first 2 games? I think that's where you really are going to figure out who are the 2024 Chargers.
And I think the other thing that we're going to figure out is what happens if the running game isn't that dominant, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you need your passing game, which, like I said, this is great. If Justin Herbert only has to throw the ball 20 times, it means something's going well for you.
Yeah.
What we don't know right now, and something that's going to play itself out, is when the Chargers need a score with 3 minutes left in the game, and they're going to have to throw their way to do it. What is that going to look like?
Yeah.
Especially when they start playing some of these good teams. So I'm excited to see it because, like I said, you can only play the teams that you have on your schedule, and the next team on your schedule is a team that's built itself on a physical culture.
Yeah.
That's great. That is the test. You're playing an AFC North team that eats glass for breakfast, and that is going to be a street fight next week, it looks like. And this Chargers offense is going to have a test unlike it's faced so far this season. I mean, you get the multi-time defensive player of the year in TJ Watt, and a defense that is pretty much smothered both of the opponents that they've played so far as well. They're right up there with the Chargers with the best defenses so far this season. So you are nitpicking a little bit, right? When we're talking about turnovers, and hey, you haven't got this tested yet. But at the end of the day, the Chargers have dominated both games they've had so far this year. They're tied atop the AFC West with the Chiefs. They took their foot off the gas and coasted to this win, right?
Well, their second string defense was in at the end of the game. I think that just shows you how dominant they were.
100%. And Jim Harbaugh preached this culture, and this is the crazy thing. Now the players are seeing it pay off.
Yeah.
Now the hard work that they put in is translating. And what is happening for this team right now is they're building more and more confidence. They're building more and more faith in what this coaching staff is preaching. That has all the combinations of something really dangerous. Truly. If this team can keep rolling, if this team can get to 3-0, right? I think they'll absolutely push the Chiefs in that first game. Like, I think the
yeah.
confidence that they'll have for that, especially with the play style that they have now, where outside of, two outliers today, they're a team that is going to shrink the clock, is not going to turn the ball over or beat themselves, and is going to be able to physically beat you up front. Those are the type of teams we've seen beat the Chiefs in the past. The Titans team that we saw, have several defenders from now has always given that Chiefs team problems, right?
Yeah.
So, man, if they can just beat the teams they're supposed to beat and pull off a couple of upsets along the way, this is a playoff team, David. And it's only 2, and we'll know much more in 2 weeks. If this the difference I will have been feeling, if this team is 2-2 or 3-1 or 4-0, it can change a lot, but we're going to know in 2 weeks.
We will know. That's when, like I said, the real tests begin, when you go up against the good teams, right? I mean, we've had teams in the past where the Chargers have beat the bad teams and not the good teams. Now it's time to see if they beat the bad teams and they beat the good teams, because that's where you can really call yourself a good football team and a real playoff contender.
Well, and we'll see if they get their kind of, I guess they haven't all been backup quarterbacks. They've all been starters so far. They just feel like backup quarterbacks they're playing against. But they might get another backup quarterback next week in Justin Fields, who has taken that Steelers team to a 2-0 start. But like I said, advantage Chargers defense in that one. What will their offense be able to do against their toughest test yet? That's so much fun, and I'm so excited that we get to have that conversation with the Chargers 2-0 for the first time since 2012. Physically dominating both teams that have been put in front of them so far. The Jim Harbaugh era is here. It's translating even more quickly than I could have imagined, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch if this team can keep stacking up these wins. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow with our Chargers buy or sell show, getting into the biggest storylines and overreactions. But to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find the show every single day on all of our social media. You can find us on Twitter at Locked On LAC, Instagram at Locked On Chargers, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Talk Sports and David Drogemeyer at DroTalkSD. If you guys want to call in your buy or sell, you can do that at 323-524-7924 and leave us a buy or sell or a fan mail question, whatever one you want. But we'll be back here tomorrow getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. Until then, take it easy and go Bulls.